Coming up on AEA Amplified, John Uczekaj, President and CEO of Aspen Avionics.
From the Aircraft Electronics Association, this is AEA Amplified, a podcast for aviation's technology experts, with your host, Jeff Hill.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AEA Amplified. I'm Jeff Hill, Director of Communications for the AEA and the editor of Avionics News Magazine. With me today is Mr. John Uczekaj, and he's the President and CEO of Aspen Avionics, an AEA member company since 2005 with headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico. John, thanks for joining us today. And I know many of our listeners are very familiar with Aspen Avionics, but you have quite an amazing aviation story yourself. You've been involved in the avionics industry now for nearly 4 decades, starting out as an engineer at Boeing and moving into management positions at Sperry and Honeywell. I don't know how many listeners know this, but you were also named the Aviation Industry Entrepreneur of the Year back in 2012 from the Living Legends of Aviation. So that's quite an honor. And you're certainly active in the general aviation industry. You serve on the board of directors for Gamma. You're an instrument rated pilot. So when did you get the bug for aviation and how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Jeff, thanks for having me on board. I think this is a great thing. It's always fun to talk about aviation and things like that. My aviation career really started with my family. My dad was a Boeing engineer. I come from a family of 9 people. At one point, there were 7 of the 9 of us who worked at Boeing. So aviation has really been a big part of our community, and my family and my community, having grown up in Seattle and such. But the reality is that most of us were primarily engineers or financial people at Boeing. And I kind of got the bug to fly because I started out in flight management systems back in the 767 days and all of that and what that entailed in terms of the technology. And I got to spend a lot of time with pilots. And it kind of got the bug back then that I really, at some point in my life, wanted to be part of the flying community and the business community around flying. And throughout my career, I continued to look for opportunities to become a pilot. I always spent time whenever I could within airplanes or out on the flight line. I did things like I'd volunteer to do VOR tests at the top tail of a 767 just to be around the aircraft. So it's always been there. And throughout my career, it's having kids and traveling a lot on business because I spent some time in Europe with Honeywell during my career. It got to the point where I wanted to find an opportunity to become part of the flying community and the aviation community in general aviation. That got accelerated really during the Honeywell Allied merger when Bendix King became part of my responsibilities, and I started spending time with the general aviation community. Went to my first Oshkosh, was thoroughly amazed like anybody is the first time they go. And that created the desire to do that. As my career progressed, I found the opportunity to be part of Aspen, which started up from basically scratch. A bunch of investors came and sought me out, and I actually didn't know I had it in me to do a startup. I actually turned down the job several times because I was primarily a big corporation guy. And, once I got at Aspen and started to deal with pilots more and started to work my pilot's license, I mean, it was just accelerated from there. So my whole life has kind of been a culmination of aviation and becoming a pilot and enjoying the flying community and just the people involved in it because it's just a fantastic group of people.
Yeah, it's truly an amazing story there. And then you founded Avionics back in 2004, and the company was named the AEA Associate Member of the Year later in 2009. Your company's got a long history of bringing advanced technologies into the cockpits for general aviation pilots. For example, your company's Evolution flight display system and the NextNav GPS sensors are helping aircraft owners meet the FAA's next-gen mandate and to do it affordably. Your company also introduced the industry's first wireless technology that enables transmission of flight plans from an iPad to certified avionics with your patented connecting panel. But your company also made a very important announcement back in early August, just a few weeks ago, when Aspen entered into an agreement in principle to become a member of the AIRO Group of companies. So, John, how did that come about, and what does that mean to general aviation and to Aspen customers across the globe?
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you giving a good summary. I just wanted to make sure you know I actually was not the founder of Aspen Avionics. Jeff Bethel and Peter Lyons were. I came in shortly after they brought in investors as the CEO of Aspen, and it is correct. We have done a lot of those things, and we have evolved into a true avionics player, and that has led us into this AIRO transaction. So what has happened is that so one of our board members, Captain Joe Burns, has been with us for quite a while, and on our board, and him and I have known each other for a while, and he had a drone company, a company called Centurion, which we had done some work with him over the period of time. And about 2 years ago, both him and I kind of saw an opportunity to develop what I would call a mid-tier aerospace company. You know, we've seen a lot of consolidation now with the mid-level players getting swallowed up by larger players. And what we see in our industry often across aerospace, not just in general aviation, is that we have several very large players, and then we've got a small to medium players, and there really is nobody in that mid-size range. And given the opportunities that are out there with this high growth or emerging growth, there's all kinds of terminology for it, for the drone or urban mobility and aspects of it, we saw an opportunity to find a group of companies that could put together a company that could not only exploit its installed base, its history in avionics, and with a emerging growth group of companies. And Joe spearheaded a lot of the activities, found some interested investors, and we worked with a group of people to basically pick amongst a large number of companies throughout the world to find the best fit to attack the emerging growth industries, to expand the current aerospace industries in avionics and controls and things of that nature. And we put together this group with the help of Stevens Bank and KPMG and some other people to create what we believe will become the next great mid-sized aerospace company. And so it really was a well thought out 2-year process of coming to this, to what we now call the AIRO Group.
And so, you know, when you made the announcement a few weeks ago, I know from my perspective, it seemed like some of the media coverage described it as more of a merger and acquisition, but it really sounds like it's a partnership with 9 companies working together to provide more resources so you can compete. Is a partnership the best way to describe your agreement with the AIRO Group?
Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, there's a lot of technical terms that people throw around, mergers, acquisitions, all that stuff, and there's a lot of connotations around that. The reality is, to build a company like this, partnership is a better way to describe it, because each of the companies brings, they've been, I want to use the word handpicked, but they've been handpicked for capabilities that not only can stand on their own, but they can support the other parts of the AIRO Group. So when you talk about partnerships, there are 3 lines of business within AIRO. There's the drones and drone services, there's avionics, and then there's military training. And when you look at the constituent companies, you recognize that in the drone area, we have some companies that have strong capabilities in artificial intelligence, flight controls, and those companies will complement many of the things that Aspen has, and we're very competent in displays and connected panel and GPS sensors. And so that'll bring some technology into Aspen that we could bring into the general aviation market. Conversely, VRCO, which is one of the constituent companies in drones, is going to need avionics. All the drone companies are going to need avionics. They're going to need certification capabilities. They're going to need supply chain capabilities. And Aspen's going to provide that capability for those emerging growth companies. In the military training area, coastal defense and agile defense are companies that provide aircraft for training in military environments. And those aircraft, like L-39s and things like that, are going to need avionics. And so we'll be able to provide capabilities in those areas. So the partnership aspect of it is not only plays well in terms of talking about it, it is really kind of the cornerstone of trying to make a company like this work, because you got to be able to scale up. You got to be able to have the entrepreneurism that you need in the drone world, and you got to have the discipline in the military world. and no one company can do that on its own. You need the capability of all the partners to be successful.
So it sounds like the partnership is going to create new opportunities in other aerospace markets that Aspen maybe hasn't played in the past, and that's going to be the key to your future growth and innovation. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, I think it's an important aspect. General aviation is a wonderful, wonderful business, but it is limited in its size and growth because we all participate in the discussions of trying to get more pilots. Many of our aircraft there's a lot of aircraft that have been around a long time, and there's a limited number of entrants into the market space in terms of growth. And in order to really be able to bring high technology, good products, you need to have scale. And in order to do that, you need to expand your markets. If you look at the historical success of any of the major avionic companies, from the Sperry days to Collins to Garmin today, many of them started out in the general aviation community, the general aviation or business jets, and they were able to expand their capabilities by adding capabilities. And many of them expanded into other markets to do that, whether it be aftermarkets, OEMs, and in some cases into adjacent markets themselves. And that created the amount of investment to reinvest back into general aviation to bring new technologies. That, coupled with the FAA's Part 23 rules and their ability to do risk-based certifications, has accelerated high technology into general aviation. If you look at it, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you've got a 1950s era Bonanza with capabilities that are greater than the 767 had in 1981 when I started work, and you can never imagine that. And that is a result of people taking their investment dollars and funneling them back in. And our strategy is the same. I mean, we're going to expand our markets, expand the capabilities of Aspen beyond displays into other product lines. And that will allow us to enter into the drone market space, which is high growth. It is a higher ceiling thing that creates more investment dollars to invest back in for new products into general aviation and expand our general aviation footprint, into the OEMs one day. And that's all very historical and is a roadmap that's worked very well in aviation. And the difference is now we have these emerging growth markets that, at least at this point, seem to have no ceiling. I mean, you can, with an imagination, you could see this becoming as ubiquitous as cars. So, and as a result of that, that creates more investment dollars to get put back into our general aviation community, which our customers and our dealers in particular will benefit from, with more business and different things to do, and that creates more training and more everything else, and the importance of the dealers. All that is all part of the process.
And once again, we're visiting with Aspen Avionics President and CEO John Uczekaj here on AEA Amplified. This podcast is brought to you by Avionics News, the monthly magazine of the AEA that's available in print, online, and via mobile apps for Android and iOS devices. For a free subscription to read Avionics News online, visit avionicsnews.net, or you can get it on Google Play or download it on the App Store. John, let me ask you, how will product support be handled now that Aspen is merging with a larger company?
So the way we see it evolving, Aspen will really be the central foundation for product support, supply chain, manufacturing type of things, because we have a lot of that infrastructure in place. Aspen has a long history of customer support. Through good and bad times, we focus on our customer. No matter what happens, our customer is number one, and we have a very strong following within our customer community. We're not always perfect. Don't get me wrong. We have our issues. Sometimes they're big issues, sometimes they're small issues, but we always focus on the customer. That is one of the big things we bring to the AIRO Group, is that culture, that infrastructure, and the people. Because when you think about it, customer service is about people, right? I mean, when you have an issue and you have a problem, you want to be confident that the people in that company can empathize with your problem, first of all, understand your problem, be motivated to do something about your problem, and be transparent with them. And that's kind of been our culture. so we're going to bring that to the AIRO Group, and that will mean that the product support infrastructure of AIRO will reflect really what Aspen has established over the last 15 years.
And that's certainly a little bit with your direct customer base, but the how the partnership, let me ask you, how you have so many good long-standing relationships established already with your AEA member dealer network. How does that change, or will it change with this?
I actually view this emerging growth section or segment of the market to be a huge opportunity for our dealer base. Let me expound a little bit on that. So, these urban mobility devices or drones or whatever they become, whether it be delivering people, cargo, medical supplies, whatever it is, they're going to need to be continually updated. They're going to need to have installations. They're going to need to have service put against them, and also operating them. And it creates opportunities for the dealer network that exists today. And I think that the dealer network that's part of AEA is going to become the foundation backbone of the emerging markets as they go forward, because our initial will be OEM type activity where OEMs provide these drones and these capabilities. And as they're creating different models and that matures over the next 20 to 50 years, the aftermarket part of that is going to evolve not unlike the fixed wing and helicopter markets do. And those dealers that are quick enough and flexible enough to capitalize on that market are going to find an amazing market for them to grow at a much higher rate and much bigger than they may be today. Many people might think that's pie in the sky stuff because drones are, there's a lot of things to overcome to get drones into the levels that are there, but there's so much money being invested and there's so much attention being invested on this particular market that it almost guarantees that it's going to be a large market. It may not be exactly what we think it is today, but it's going to be there. And those dealers that are flexible and agile enough to capitalize on that are going to find an amazing market for them. And we want to be part of that, and we want to be the focal point of that.
Yeah, I know that's welcome news for your dealers and for AEA members there that work with you. So to be clear, it sounds like that, as much as this is a little bit different for you, general aviation though is going to continue to be Aspen's priority. It sounds like it always has been, and that is true moving forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I tell this people to everybody I talk to, whether it be Bloomberg or Avionics News or AIN, we are a general aviation company. Aspen's history, its culture is a general aviation company. It is the reason why AIRO Group wanted us, because the other people see the strengths that the general aviation approach towards everything is there. We see this as just like almost a dream come true for many of us, that we will have access to more capital to expand our product line, to enter into the OEM market at some point, and to improve our levels of certification to Class 4 aircraft and Part 25 aircraft one day. I mean, the dream is big, and it's very exciting, and it all starts with having a culture and a basis in general aviation, and that's going to be continuing. That's going to be the rock solid part of it. That's the reason why there is a specific line of business in the AIRO Group called avionics, because we are going to focus on general aviation avionics and expand that there. For our customers, our dealers, the aerospace community, I've said this since I started with Aspen, competition is great. You always got to have competition. Competition is what drives prices down. Competition is what brings technology in. You look at where we were when we started, the number of avionics manufacturers, and where they are today and what we're working on. I'm a firm believer if it wasn't for competition, much of that technology would never come to place. I'll use connected panel as a perfect example. We came out with connected panel in 2011. ForeFlight was a glimmer in many people's eye. iPads had just started in the cockpits, and we had a vision that providing connectivity between an iPad or tablet application to avionics was going to bring a whole new world. And look where we are today. Look how many applications there are. Look how many how many people provide iPad applications, and how many different ways there are to get that into your cockpit, and how many different ways there are to get that into an airplane. And that is what makes things exciting. It's competition. Nobody stood still. We introduced the idea. It's expanded to great levels. It's been a great business for us. It's been a great business for others, and we barely see the tip of the iceberg of it. Competition is great, and Aspen's growth into the AIRO Group is going to provide a higher level of capabilities that's going to drive more competition into the market space, going to drive more innovation, more markets, and more affordability into the market space. I've been a firm believer of this since the very beginning, and I just see this as another opportunity to take that to the next level.
So, we've talked about how this is going to help you with future product development and future product lines, but is there any light you can shed on what might be forthcoming in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we have always had in our roadmaps to expand our display line, to expand sensors. We acquired Accord Technologies to expand the GPS sensor line. GA growth rates have not been, the best in terms of attracting investors in a purely GA play. And as a result of that, we've had limited investments to do that. I mean, we have the desire to move to an ODA, expand our sensor technology to other products, expand our controls aspects into other products, more integrated displays in the cockpits and all that means. So you're going to see us moving into those areas simultaneously with providing those types of capabilities into the drone network. And with the AIRO Group of companies in artificial intelligence and flight controls and sensors, you're going to see that bleeding back into our product lines into general aviation. And that will mean that you'll see some innovative products that maybe we don't know what they are today. And then you'll see us moving into the classical parts of avionics that we don't play in today, that we will move into. Clearly, flight controls is a very big part of where things are done. Garmin has moved that technology so far and so fast to an auto-land capability. That is a big growth in area, and flight controls is an area that we'd like to see ourselves expand into, especially since those capabilities are going to be needed in the drone network, and we're going to be the ones that provide that with our member companies in AIRO. So, we could see things like that. Maybe it's not a direct autopilot, maybe it's something hybrid towards it, maybe it's an integrated type product that's a little bit different than what's today. What we've learned at Aspen is, and I think we've all learned this in avionics, copying others is not a good way to win. You got to find innovation that differentiates yourself. And that's what we've always been. And we've always limited ourselves to differentiating products and differentiating markets where we could grow. And I think you're going to expect to see more of that from Aspen.
Well, John, thanks so much for joining us here on AEA Amplified, sponsored by Avionics News Magazine. And I know we certainly look forward to seeing your team at the upcoming AEA Connect conferences later this September and into October in Naples, Florida, and Kansas City, Missouri. But before we close, is there anything we missed or any other items that you'd like to share with your AEA member dealers or the avionics community at large?
Yeah, I just, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I always enjoy talking, as you can tell, about this because I'm very excited about this, always excited about the industry. But I just wanted to make a few comments about AEA and what role it plays and how important it is to companies like us. When we received, that AEA Associate Member of the Year award, that today still is one of our highlights of the company. I mean, that was very exciting. It was even a little bit emotional, to be quite honest with you, for the founders and stuff. But AEA plays such a critical role in its member companies, member dealers, and its associate members. Ranging from the conventions and the Connect meetings to the availability of data in terms of market growth and things like that. I just want to plug support for AEA and the dealers that are part of it, and let everybody know that we see AEA as a big part of the future not only just general aviation, but also of the emerging growth markets, and support all that AEA does and all that the dealers do with it. And I just want to make sure I say that before we close here, and just let you guys know we appreciate all that you do.
Oh, we appreciate all that you do. Again, that's John Uczekaj, the President and CEO of Aspen Avionics. Thanks again, and we look forward to visiting with you soon. And to learn more about to learn more about Aspen Avionics, you can visit them online at aspenavionics.com. And that's going to wrap it up for today. And we hope you can join us again soon for another episode of AEA Amplified. Don't forget, you can learn more about the AEA at aea.net, or follow us on our social media platforms at LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time here on AEA Amplified, so long everybody, and be safe.